Is work-life balance just a myth? Is it even possible? I feel like it's not even real. Actually, I just want to read a couple of these. I love boundaries. It lets people know where the line is when it comes to your time and energy. Schedule everything, especially days off. The work won't be enjoyable if you're burning yourself out. Pace yourself. Keep to your hours! Exclamation point. This is VIPKid. It's okay to decline classes. Yes, it is. It's okay to say no. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is Marilyn from Teach Marilyn B Style, and I wanted to talk to you teachers about boundaries. How do you set good boundaries? And this is for all teachers, whether you are in a classroom or teaching online with a flexible schedule, whether you are a tutor. I want you to have good boundaries. And I'm looking at this camera, but really I feel like I need this message myself because I have struggled with time management and healthy boundaries for my whole life. And I'm honestly, if I'm totally real, I'm kind of struggling with it right now. And I knew that I couldn't be alone. So I went to Instagram and on my stories, I asked, how would you help a teacher who's brand new set good boundaries? What advice would you give? And I feel like I got the most engagement with this story, like more than I've had in a really long time, which is super cool. So thank you to everybody who's contributed. Let's go. When it comes to boundaries, you're going to have to be your own advocate. No one else is going to put these in place for you. So here are 5 things that I think will really help you to set good, healthy boundaries. Now, all that being said, when you're starting new habits, if all 5 of these things are new to you, just pick one that you're going to focus on first. Okay, like I've talked about habits before. Pick the one that you think is the most important for you right now. Now, I know there are lots of different ways to approach this, but there are 5 things that I want to talk to you about that will help you to set really healthy boundaries when it comes to teaching. And I'm not talking about like relational boundaries. I've seen really cool videos like boundaries with parents, boundaries with students, but this is specific about like actual just having boundaries with work. Okay, number 1 is to know your job description and also know your value. Okay, so let me kind of explain what I mean by that. If you don't have an official job description, then you really need to figure out what that is. Knowing your job description will help you to understand like exactly what tasks you are responsible for and what you're being paid for, and allow you to be your own advocate. Once you know what the parameters of your job actually entail, it'll help you to start creating healthy boundaries because you'll know what you are responsible for and what you are not responsible for. So let me just start with like one of the job positions I had. So when I was a 7th grade life science teacher, I had the responsibility of planning my lessons and collaborating with my team. And obviously like attending staff meetings and professional development, but I was not the team lead. Like just really know what is in your contract, know what you are responsible for, but then also like help that inform what you're not responsible for. That was a weird way to say that. But anyway, if you know what you are not actually responsible for, you can say no. And like so many of you advised, no is a complete sentence. You can say no to things and you don't have to carry any guilt. Okay, I have a question. How many of you believed the myth that you're not a good teacher unless you, let's fill in that blank. Fill in the blank if I miss anything in the comments below. Like my first, 4 years teaching, I honestly believed that like I was not a good teacher unless I stayed after school really late, like for at least a few hours after contract time was over. I was not a good teacher if I didn't spend my own money on school supplies. I was not a good teacher if I didn't come super early and leave late. I used to think I would not be a good teacher if I wasn't like spending time on the weekends and on vacations planning and grading. But those are myths. If you have healthy boundaries, that's what makes you a good teacher. Having good life balance makes your classes more effective. But how do we get there? When you know your job description, you actually don't have to spend your own money on your classroom. I know that seems kind of like, I don't know if that's going to shatter like what you've been told or what you've thought, but honestly, like there should be funds within your school for supplies that you need. I know not all schools have that. And if you're an online teacher, like it's coming from you. However, there's a lot of free resources out there. And as VIPKid and OutSchool or Magic Ears teachers, I feel like it's really tempting to spend your hard-earned money on things that will help you succeed in your classes. But there are so many things that are free. There really are. All that being said, if you do spend your own money, which I know we all do, make sure you keep your receipts, and like when you're itemizing your taxes, make sure those are deductible, right? So yeah, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. But I mean, like classroom teachers, VIPKid teachers, the curriculum is provided for you. You don't have to recreate something that's already there. So use what you have. Okay, number 2, this is a tough one, and I was chatting with a few friends about this, but work your contract hours only. I feel like this section is going to be the one I talk the longest about, just because it's the one that teachers struggle with the most. So I'm going to start with classroom teachers, and then I'll get to that flexible schedule with online teaching. But classroom teachers, I'm talking about like your planning time, grading, emails, phone calls, all of that needs to get done within your contract hour time. And then once your contract hours are up, you close the laptop, you walk away from your classroom, and you leave. How is this possible? Well, a couple of ways. Number 1, you need to communicate at the beginning of the year or right now. Communicate that with the admin and staff, and communicate that with parents and let them know. I actually just watched a video on Michelle Ferray's channel, Pocketful Primary, all about working your contract hours only. She gives like 5 habits, and they're super helpful. And I wish I had that as a resource when I was a first-year teacher, because that would have been so helpful to get myself organized. So I will link that below. It's an excellent video. So I'm not going to go into like the ins and outs of all that. In general, just make sure that you're communicating these boundaries. If you only want to be available to answer emails at this time during the day, then parents and admin and everyone can expect to get emails from you at that time. It doesn't mean you're not reading them throughout the day, because a lot of times I know you receive them and you need to be like aware of whatever's going on. You can respond all at once. Another really great tip that some teachers gave was to keep your work email off of your phone. That way you're not constantly refreshing and checking it, and you're not getting those notifications all day and night. Then there's the question of like, how do I only do my planning, grading, emails, all of that during the day? You have to really prioritize. You need to start setting habits and then prioritize. Like, I've seen this called different things, but like I call them the big 3, or like your power, what is it called? I've also seen it called like your power list. And so it's just like 3 to 5 things. I can only operate on a very small scale, but 3 to 5 things that you have to accomplish today. And it's a short enough list that it's doable, but you really have to pick from like your longer to-do list of things that you need to say accomplish this week, and say, well, on Monday, I'm only going to do these things. And then that way, once they're finished, you can get to the other things. It gives you the freedom to do that. So I think that's a really helpful way to prioritize and really choose like, okay, I must get my planning done for next week. I must make this phone call to these parents. And then you've got this list going. And then that way, each day you're knocking down that to-do list. And it's okay to ask yourself the question, what can wait till tomorrow? And answer it honestly. Because even if you stayed every day, Monday through Friday, like if you got to the school site at 6 a.m. and you stayed till 6 p.m., there would still be more things on your to-do list. You know that. I know that. When you're trying to keep to those contract hours, you need to like physically move yourself out of the space where you work and go somewhere else. I think because we bring so much work home, it can be really confusing to know like, when do I turn off my teacher stuff? And then when does like my own time begin? And that's a big part of why working your contract hours is essential. So when you're planning your vacations, allow them to really be vacations. Don't work when you're on vacation. VIPKid teachers, you don't have to bring your work with you. You don't have to. If I knew I had a vacation coming up, I'd usually pick up a few extra classes beforehand so that I could not work the week of vacation. That was something that worked for me. Now, I know not everybody has that same availability, but it is what worked for me the best. Because the idea of working on a vacation just didn't feel like a vacation. Now, again, if you are a flexible teacher, then that means that you are going to probably have to work outside of your contract hours a bit, but give yourself time limits and create your own workspace. Actually, I talk about this in my How to Be Successful as an Online Teacher, like mental health for an online teacher. Create a space that's just for your work. And that way you can kind of like clock in and clock out. So if you're going to say, do something for 1 hour, like plan your lessons or prep for lessons for 1 hour at home, then have a space where you do that. Set it aside, turn on your timer, and when 1 hour is up, stop. You're going to have to really focus and choose to be intentional about how you use that time wisely. You don't get to multitask and have TV on in the background and, scroll Instagram at the same time. Like, you just really need to focus because that time is limited. And once you have that timer on, okay, this is the time that I do that. I'm going to turn my brain on for that and then just get it done. Okay, so when it comes to contract hours and you have a flexible schedule, so like a VIPKid or OutSchool or Magic Ears teacher, you have to build your own schedule. And this is where things can get a little bit tricky because your time is money, right? But you have to remember what your job description is. So I'm going to refer back to number 1. Know your job description. You are not being paid to spend hours and hours and hours prepping for your classes. You need to make sure you're only working a schedule that will serve you and your family. You should not be working for your schedule. Your schedule should work for you. I know I really struggled with this at the beginning with VIPKid. Once bookings started rolling in, I just kept adding and adding and adding and taking whoever would book me whenever. And I was exhausted and I didn't know how to say no. And so just think about your needs and your lifestyle and fit your schedule into that. Flexible job hours should be just that, flexible, but you need to have a consistent schedule and that way you'll know what to expect each day. Many teachers suggested that you need to keep to your hours, meaning once you set that schedule, you don't really stray from that. Now, I know when it comes to flexible work, if you're doing this full time or if you have a certain monetary goal that you need to reach by the end of the month, then you usually need to make up for certain classes if you miss them or they didn't get booked. Obviously, that makes sense, but it's not like an all the time thing. Like in general, what schedule is going to work for you? And remember that a schedule that works for somebody else is not necessarily going to work for you. So utilize that flexibility to really build it around what you're able to do. Within this idea of working your contract hours, build in days off. So online teachers, build in days where you are not working. I know that might be a tough pill to swallow, but you will get burnt out really quick if you're trying to do that all the time. And then when it comes to, we don't have to do planning and grading in the same way classroom teachers do, but prepping for classes used to take me, like I said, it used to take me hours. But you really need to find a system where prepping for classes will take you less and less time. Eventually I stopped prepping for classes. I mean, I would just kind of scan through a lesson. If I knew it, I wouldn't even look at it. If it was new to me or I hadn't taught it in a while, I would kind of glance through the slides and then I would go to bed. So prep for classes beforehand, but try to make that time shorter and shorter, and find a system that really works for you. And then on the other end, as far as grading, we do feedback. Find a feedback system that really serves you. I use Google Slides Planner because they've got templates, but there's free templates within the VIPKid app. I know there's a lot of other resources that are available, but really try to find a time that you're going to do your feedback every time you teach. That way it's done and you're not thinking about it the rest of the day. This also has to do with being in touch with parents. Kind of let them know what your office hours are, basically. If you're going to be communicating with parents through the OutSchool platform or on WeChat, set a certain time that you answer those types of messages. If it's every day or 5 days a week, then just let parents know on your homepage, I answer these messages, from this time to this time, Monday through Thursday. And then that way they're not expecting you to just be at their beck and call, because once you let a parent cross that boundary, that's a slippery slope. And if you've already established that type of relationship with the parents, then it's probably going to be harder to kind of step back from that, but you will feel a lot less pressure from parents. You'll feel a lot less pressure to perform and be a people pleaser. You have to you need to give yourself permission to have a firm boundary and say I will get back to you on Monday about that. Just practice typing that out, practice saying that out loud, and the more you say it, the easier it'll get. Work your contract hours and only your contract hours. You're not getting paid the rest of the day. You're not getting paid on weekends. You're not. and your time is money, so value it. And really try to prioritize your tasks so that you get things done within that time you have. Don't forget, your schedule is so personal, and it doesn't help to compare yourself to other teachers. Every teacher is on their own journey and in their own life stage. So although it might be helpful to kind of get some information from other teachers, maybe get some strategies that they've used that work for them, you have to tailor it for yourself so that it serves you and what you need to get done. Now, the whole point of being able to just work your contract hours is so that you can live the rest of your life. So you really need to set a life schedule. Now, I don't mean hour by hour, day by day. What I mean is, if you have a list of priorities and you have them in this order, okay, number 1 is my time with God. Number 2 is my time with my family. Number 3 is work. And number 4 is everything else. If you've watched my priorities video, that's actually what I want to prioritize. Now, here's the thing. You have that list, but then there's real life. Does real life, if you look at the hours you spend doing those things, does it actually line up, or is it flipped upside down? If I look at the number of hours I spend on Instagram, which would be part of that 4th category of everything else, it's clearly my number 1 category because I spend the most time there, or I spend the most money on other things, right? If you look at your time and you look at the money you've spent, you'll see where your priorities are. You will. It will reveal itself. So if you say your number 1 priority is your family, then when you're looking at your schedule, how much time do you want to spend with your family? Make that a priority and say these hours on these days are sacred hours. This is what I'm going to do. If you are homeschooling your kids and you want their education to be your number 1 priority, then you need to say, okay, I'm going to plan lessons on this day for the entire week. And then I'm going to spend this time implementing those lessons, grading their papers, talking about rubrics, really building a framework for whatever it is that you want to be number 1. Don't forget that in my priority list, in family, that includes me. So how am I taking care of myself so that I can give to the rest of the people in my life? One thing that I definitely struggle with is actually making work more of a priority than my hobbies or the other things I like to do. So social media, YouTube, I have a really difficult time putting work above that and saying okay, I want to spend more time on these things and less time on this, or I can spend as much time as I want on this once I've gotten these things accomplished. It can be really easy to just say, you know what, I'm just going to distract myself on my phone for a few minutes and just check in on people and see how everyone's doing and watch a few stories. Yeah, 6 hours later, like I said at the beginning, life balance actually makes you a more effective teacher. But then it also sets things in their right order. Okay, this is a hard one, teachers. Sleep. You need to sleep, for goodness sake. I'm literally right now not doing that. Everyone else in my family is asleep. I should be. This is a really, really tough one for me. Set a consistent bedtime and a consistent time that you wake up, even on the weekends. I think that's my tough one, is that because I only work so many days a week and my weekend is sort of extended, I sleep in and then I am not as productive because I've spent that morning sleeping in, and mostly it's because I stayed up late the night before doing something not even as productive as this. Usually it's just watching Bridgerton again. Anyway, but actually get the rest that you need. Healthy boundaries in life and balance in life, so much of that hinges upon your sleep schedule. So you really need to work to make that a priority. I am curious though, are you more of a night owl or an early bird? Because I'm definitely a night owl. I had to work to be an early bird, and now that I'm going into business for myself, I find it harder and harder to wake up early. But then part of that is because I'm staying up late. So yeah, that's kind of a problem. Getting consistent sleep is essential for your health in general. And I mean, not just your physical health, but your mental health, your emotional health. And if you are not at your best, you need to give yourself permission to get the rest that you need and realize that whatever it is that you're doing late at night can wait. Now, obviously, like caveat, if you have trouble sleeping, that's a different situation. But if you're just scrolling on your phone, knock it off. Like, let me just tell you, like, if you're watching this instead of going to sleep, turn this off and just go to bed. Oh, I did want to say, like, if you know that you're not going to be at your best, so this is for like flexible online classes or tutoring. If you know you're not going to be at your best, I would suggest that you cancel the class, because it's not going to be a benefit to the student for you to just show up and like not really teach them well. If your company allows for you to have cancellations and not get penalized for it, I would really suggest that you just cancel. Even with VIPKid, you get 6 cancellations per contract, but that also includes teacher no-shows, which you get a penalty for, so that's no fun. I would suggest canceling before 24 hours before you would get a teacher no-show. Even though both of those would be on your teaching record, like, I think in the eyes of parents, one affects you less than the other. So just be mindful of that, because if you're not getting enough sleep, you're not going to wake up in time, or you're not going to teach at your best. So that really is why you need to go to bed on time, and be strict about that. I need someone to like tell me to go to bed, because I never do. The last thing that I want to tell you about boundaries with work is that sometimes it's really hard to just be consistent on your own. So ask for help. I think one of the greatest things that happened as a result of me asking for teachers' advice today was that one of my friends was like, I don't know why Marilyn tagged me in this, because I need more help than anything. And I actually like called other people because of my schedule next month, and I'm trying to figure that all out. And it dawned on me that like asking for help is actually a big deal. Ask other teachers that seem to like only work their contract hours. How do you do that? When do you plan? What strategies do you use? And though it may not be the perfect fit for you, some sort of strategy might be helpful. Really, collaboration can be one of the greatest tools. I think as a classroom teacher, when we would split up the work, that obviously helped us work less and really focus on just those few tasks. And then we shared all of those resources with each other. That happened from my very first teaching job all the way until the last one. So splitting up the work in any way, collaborating with other teachers is a huge thing. And at the very least, like, you can just have a mentor teacher or a friend that you can like talk to about what you're doing, because sometimes having a soundboard can help you like organize your thoughts and just get you going on the right track. So yeah, reach out to someone. If you don't have anyone to reach out to, you can reach out to me. Find me over on Instagram, and I'd be happy to chat with you. Or you can send me an email. I'll put all that in the links below. So a couple of just closing thoughts. Listen, we all want to give our very best to our students, but that doesn't mean that we have to give all of ourselves to our students. I know for me, my best means that my life is in the right order. One of you actually put this as an answer for advice on Instagram, and I just really appreciated it, because it's a big part of my teacher story actually. But it is a verse from the Bible, Matthew 5:37. It's, let your yes be yes and your no be no. If you're able to do something and you can say yes to it, then do it. If you're not able to do it, just say no, and that's okay. I do want to share something that Reggie actually shared with me. When it comes to teaching, Google can provide content. Google has all the information, but teachers are so much more. You build those solid connections between information and understanding. Remember that when you are healthy, mentally, emotionally, physically, when you're at your best, you're able to deliver the content in a way that is going to make those connections for students. So really take your health seriously and start thinking about how you're going to implement boundaries. I would love to hear more ideas in the comments below, or if any of these resonated with you, please let me know. I know I need to get to sleep. That's going to be one of my number one priorities that I just need to stick to starting tomorrow. Anyways, all right, guys, I'm gonna go. Please share this video with any teacher that you think it might help. And if it sparks a conversation, that's amazing. Please let me know that too in the comments. And I will catch y'all next time. Thank you, and happy boundary setting. Bye. I need to go to bed. Good night.